They do divorce parties now. Did you know that?
I did.
I did not. I was unaware of this. I guess you could throw a divorce party. All right, welcome back, guys. Episode 8 here of Cases and Cocktails, and we are talking today a little bit about tips for a smooth divorce transition, which is important if you're going through a divorce, right?
Yeah, I think
Nailed
so.
it. Nailed it.
You're doing great so far.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Good? Yeah. I will tell you that I believe one of the best things that you can do to help you smoothly transition through your divorce is booze.
I don't think you
It's
can
not?
say that. No,
That's not it?
I don't.
That's
I don't
not
think
the
that is
answer.
a healthy coping mechanism. And
Are you serious?
you're gonna be in so much trouble with Sandra.
Oh, all right. I'm kidding. It's not. It's actually a terrible idea in some instances, but
On an unrelated note,
right.
the cocktail for today
Right.
is a Fern Gully. Fernanda is really showing off at this point. I think there's cotton candy on the top. She said this was a mimosa, so there's champagne and some tequila and looks to be some
What is on the
food.
top?
I think it's cotton candy. Lick it.
All right. I think we're going to have to fix the cocktail situation. I think. I'm just going to start drinking out of the bottle.
Less colorful next time.
Less sparkles? I don't know.
Okay, we still have to try it.
All right. I'm going to try it.
But I'm gonna move this.
Okay.
Make a
I don't.
mess.
Do you just, what do you do? Offload this?
I'm
Do you
going to.
take, oh God, it's stuck. Okay.
Oh,
Do
you dip it in it.
Oh, it's a dip?
I've been told that you.
It's a dip. I'm not dipping.
Well, it needs more sugar.
Maybe a
Obviously.
chaser? I don't know what that is. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Is it it's frozen.
That's really good, but I think you can only do one of those.
I'll be honest with you. I would pay to see you drink 2 of those. You might have diabetes afterwards. Okay. A Fern Gully.
Fern Gully.
Make sure to ask your bartenders for that. They will love you. All right.
Smooth
Man.
divorce.
That's good though.
It's surprisingly really good.
All right, that's good. All right, we got tips for a smooth divorce transition, and honestly, we deal with this a lot, and what a lot of it is, in my opinion, is what we do from the onset that we get a case until all the way to the very end of a case, the life cycle of a case. And one of the things that we do here, we try to help the client navigate, not just on the litigation side, but as a human, as a person, individually. And there's a lot that goes into that: emotions, handling the emotions, handling, going through a divorce or a custody case, handling the financial side and understanding what's necessary to what you need, right, in order to be successful on the back end. In custody cases or divorce cases that got kids, how to be an effective co-parent, how to be successful with that.
How to answer those questions that your kids are going to have in the middle of it.
Yeah. So, really, one of the, some of the basic stuff, you're going through a divorce, you need a support system, and it needs to not be the attorneys that you've hired.
Right.
We charge money.
We charge much more than a therapist or
or even your friends. You need friends, you need family, you need somebody that you can talk to.
And there are plenty of support groups. I think that as a result of COVID, there are more virtual support groups for all of this. I think that divorce and custody cases have always been hard. And you remember how busy we were during COVID. Nothing would end an unhappy divorce faster than being stuck in the same house with that person for an extended period.
Right.
But as a result of COVID, there's a lot of virtual support groups that you can become a part of. And not it's not a one size fits all. Not one thing works for everyone. So you might have to try some different things before you find something that helps you deal with some of these issues. Find someone that you can trust to talk through it that isn't going to judge you or use it against you later. You want to make sure that it's a safe place and somewhere, if you're asking for advice, that you get healthy responses.
Yeah, I was going to say too. I think it's great. Anyone have friends, family, support groups, churches, Facebook, even whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. I think it's important though that those people are there to help you. I think that's a hard situation too. I know that sometimes you get people that are there. They think they're helping you. Really, what they're doing is antagonizing you.
Right.
And if someone's antagonizing you or creating drama, right, at least on our end, that's going to create more work. And more work means the client's going to spend more money.
And a lot of time it creates confusion, right? Because in all of our cases, we hear well, my friend just went through a divorce
Right.
and this is what they said happened.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't have enough of an in-depth understanding of what's going on litigation-wise to explain that anyway. They just know what happened that made them feel a certain way.
Right.
And now all of a sudden they're professionals in divorce and our clients are relying on those people's advice versus their attorneys, and it becomes problematic.
Yeah, it's difficult, but you need a good support system. You need a good support system that's going to help you. One of the things too that you also need to sort of have a conceptualized thought about what you're going to do moving forward as far as finances are concerned. You may not know where every penny's going or coming from, that sort of stuff, based on some different facts of the case, but you want to think about what you're trying to accomplish and what it's going to cost to get you there, and what you need in order to make it happen. I think talking to a CPA, talking to some sort of money manager, sometimes particularly when you're talking about retirement accounts, annuities, pensions, that sort of stuff. I think it's important to be aware of that, because there's a lot of financial decisions that have to be made, and quite frankly, there's a lot of ways to skin the cat. Right?
Yeah, and you want to make sure that whatever your client is asking for, that they understand what they're asking for, what the impact of that is going to be in the future, because sometimes they don't know what they need. I'm doing a divorce where we've got a couple, they're in their 70s, and the wife hasn't worked in decades. And didn't have an understanding of their assets, much less the money that was going out every month. So it's like starting from the ground up. And you want to make sure that you're giving those clients the most support possible, right?
Yeah, it happens all the time. We have clients that they've got a house, right? And whether they got kids or not, they got a house. They've afforded the house on a dual income situation. Mm-hmm. They no longer have dual incomes. It's sort of the entire purpose of the divorce.
Right.
And now they got to figure out how they're going to afford it if one of them wants to keep it, and that's difficult. So, kind of conceptualizing that, thinking those things through, right? Leaning on people, and again, those are things that we can help with, but also those are things that other people can help you with at a much lesser rate, right? Cost, right?
And that's their area of expertise. Again, we try to stay in our lane and provide legal advice for family law cases.
Yeah. One of the other things that I think helps in working through your divorce and making sure you're really successful on the back end is when you've got a case, you've got kids, it's much different than a case where husband and wife, two spouses are divorcing, they have no kids, and you're done. Because quite frankly, if you don't have kids and you get divorced, it's over, right? C'est la vie. Good luck. Get out of here. I'm done with you, right? That's the entire purpose, right? But when you got kids, you're put in a situation where you still got to see that person. You divorced them, you got rid of them, but they're still there.
Yeah, you're still going to have a relationship with them.
And so what I think it's important immediately to start trying to figure out how to effectively co-parent with them during the divorce. So it's an easier transition on the back end, right? It's not like, hey, I hate you. I'm never going to talk to you. We're never going to get anything figured out. Oh, we're divorced. Okay, let's be friends.
Right.
Right. And you can try that, I guess, right? It's kind of like the Fern Gully here. You can try it. You may not like it. I'm kidding. I love it. It's fantastic. No, seriously though, figuring out how to co-parent is important. One of the things that we do is we really work with clients on how to how to communicate, right? What's the right way of saying, hey, little Johnny, fell down and scraped his knee today, or hey, little Susie needs help, with her homework. I'm thinking about getting her a tutor. There are different ways to say that,
Right.
right? And certain ways are really offensive, apparently, and people have hot sports opinions and feelings about those ways that you said it. But there are other ways that you can effectively say it, get the point across, leave the emotions out, right? Do the things.
I think that's the hard part, right? Is leaving the emotion out and focusing on the kids, because you still have emotions about your ex-spouse, whatever those emotions might be, good, bad, or in between. You don't want those to get in the way of decision making for your children. I think we've got plenty of cases that are examples of people not doing co-parenting well. And this isn't a case, this is actually a member of our team. I have never seen a better co-parenting relationship, either personally or professionally. She was married, got divorced, got remarried, and had kids with her second husband. Husband number one was in their wedding.
Right.
Husband number one watches a child of the second marriage, right? So wife went off and got remarried, and they have a child, and he parents that child. I mean, she's a little girl, and he treats her like a princess. She knows when she goes over there and she's staying there, she's going to get anything she wants.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to her at length about this because I want to be able to try to convey it to clients. And she said, it didn't matter what happened between us. We wanted to be good parents for our kids. And they do that. I mean, it doesn't matter what house those kids are in, that's their home.
Well, that speaks volumes for her ability to, like you said, set aside the emotions and set aside the things that caused the divorce and for the sake of the kids. And it's not easy. I think you're talking about, a unicorn, right?
Yep.
I don't think.
I'll let her know you called her that.
Right. I don't think you see that very often. But I'll say this: one of the things that we do, we have a licensed professional counselor here on staff, and she helps our clients sort of work through those things so they can get to a space to where they can do what she's done, which is set aside the things that got them here and really focus on the kids.
Yeah, she helps provide them with tools. Obviously, she can't be our client's therapist, but she can make recommendations based on the needs and location of our clients. She can help spot issues that maybe we aren't as adept at spotting, to try to address them head on. I found it to be beyond helpful.
She's also fairly adamant that I was wrong that booze would fix all of this.
Yep, she's going to be pretty mad about
that. Yeah, I think she's not gonna appreciate that very much. But she is amazing, though. It's very helpful. It helps the client navigate the things, the emotions, and the things, so we can focus on what's going on and really keep the kids at the forefront of the decisions that need to be made. Let's do this. Got a couple questions here from some comments recently that talk a little bit about this divorce transition.
And these are questions that were either posted as comments here or sent in on other social media platforms, but they're questions that we've received more than once. So it seems like people have an interest in having these questions answered.
All right, I'm going to let you ask me first, I guess.
Okay. What resources are available for emotional support during a divorce?
Well, like we said earlier, I think you got resources can come from anywhere. You can have your friends, you can have your family, you can have a therapist, psychiatrist. There are groups that are dedicated to helping people generally through divorce. It gets very specific, moms going through divorce, dads going through divorce. There are virtual groups that you can join and talk about your divorce. I'll say this, that I think there's a lot of resources out there for people for emotional support through your divorce, but it's really important to figure out what, as we talked about earlier, what works for you, and make sure that whatever you're doing is being helpful and is not being detrimental to the process of working through that. That makes sense?
Yeah. So how do you Have you ever had to tell a client, hey, I need you to go get some emotional support?
Yeah, we have. It's something that actually I think we actually deal with quite frequently.
Yeah.
With Sandra Aguilar, who's our licensed professional counselor, on staff. When I'm when I'm working with a client and we can tell that they are having a lot of emotional reactions, statements. You can just sometimes tell that they're really dealing emotionally with the divorce itself. Not even the litigation part, but just the process of understanding that their life is changing, right? Drastically.
And sometimes, I had a case recently where, people had emotions and they were sad that they were getting divorced, but through the discovery process, we found out that husband in this case has basically been having affairs since they got married. And to have to break that to a client,
Yeah.
that's a traumatizing event.
It is. It's a traumatizing event, but more importantly, I think it goes back to whether it happens during the divorce or it's something that they've been contemplating for a long time. People have to grieve the loss of their relationship and their marriage or their partner, and it's hard. And some people do well, some people do terrible, some people. Some people drink a lot of booze. But the idea behind it, though, is that I think it happens more often than not. Probably with my clients, we talk to them about it, and we don't say, "Hey, look, man, you're crazy. Go get a therapist." What we do is we typically talk about kind of what resources we can help and what resources they're engaging in. And Sandra's great. Sandra's great at helping them better understand that with a lot of a softer touch than maybe someone like myself who's more of comes from a litigation background, maybe not so soft. Is that fair?
Fair.
That's fair. All right, I got one for you. This one, how can parents create a co-parenting plan that works for everyone? It's sort of general, but I think you can do that.
Well, and again, I don't think there's a one size fits all. It's going to be different. Depending on who you have to co-parent with, I think that's going to impact what you do. So if it's a case where you guys can generally communicate fine and your orders require you to communicate about decisions before you make those decisions, then figure out what works for you. If this is something that you guys might not both agree on and you're going to have to, weigh the pros and cons and not everyone's going to agree, does it make more sense for you guys to do that over the phone, or do you need to do it in written communication so that everyone has a cooling off period and can think about things before they turn around and respond? But I think the most important key is communication.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying a lot of communication because oftentimes that becomes very problematic, but making sure that the communication is best for y'all's situation. Making sure that you are thoughtful about it. And again, trying to remove the emotion from it. But just going and making decisions without telling the other side, obviously problematic. I think we had a case recently where one parent, the child was diagnosed with something and had been prescribed some medication, and the other side didn't even know about it. I get that you don't want to engage in some communication sometimes because you're worried about getting into a fight. But I mean, goodness, I think everybody needs to know about what's going on with the child medically.
Yeah, no, I agree. And yeah, that's definitely an illustration of what not to do as a co-parent. I'll say this as far as coming up with a co-parenting plan. Everyone's got great intentions. Maybe not everyone. Most of the time, people, parents in particular, will have fairly good intentions of what they want to do. I think it's important though that clients and people going through the divorce process, they need to understand intentions are one thing, but let's make sure you can actually do what you're saying you're going to do.
You don't set yourself up for failure.
Right. Mm-hmm. Set yourself up for success on the back end, right? If you say, hey, look, I'm going to be at, every one of little Johnny's doctor's appointments, and I want to be there, and no one can have a doctor's appointment without me being there. But you work 80 hours a week, and sometimes on the road, little Johnny's probably not going to be sick only when you're there, and you're just setting yourself up for failure. And I know it's a sort of a stretch of an example, but at the end of the day, you got to make sure that whatever you're writing down on in the decree or the custody paperwork, you can actually do. I think it's important. And that's probably, the best thing you can do to set yourself up for co-parenting.
And be flexible, right? Because you can write it down and have the best intentions. And at the end of the day, it might not work for your parenting or for your family or your co-parenting relationship.
Right.
So be flexible.
Right.
You ready for another question?
Yeah, hit me up.
What financial steps should someone take immediately after a divorce?
Play the lottery. Nope.
Remember that case where they played it during the divorce and then it was community?
Yeah, don't do that. Let's see. What financial steps should someone take immediately after the divorce? They do divorce parties now. Did you know that?
I did.
I did not. I was unaware of this. I guess you could throw a divorce party. That sounds like a terrible idea. You could go through a midlife crisis. That sounds like a terrible idea. I think the best thing you should do, honestly, once you have effectuated the divorce, the final decree's been entered, everything's done, change the beneficiaries on all your stuff. Talk to somebody, get a new will, make sure that that's all your sort of estate planning is done and updated accordingly. I think those are really kind of the big ticket items. Most of the time the decree it may not always. You may need to close accounts. You may need to get people off credit cards. And really the last thing is, do the things necessary to get your money, right?
Yeah.
Like if it's, hey, you've got to, sign this piece of paper and then your ex has to sign this piece of paper so y'all can transfer the funds, then do it.
Go get it.
Right. Go get it. Right.
I had a consult a few months ago, and it actually turned into they paid me for my time to explain some things to them. But it was another attorney. It was the one that actually called, an out-of-state attorney. And he had a client, and he represented an adult son. His mother had recently passed away, and she had divorced his father some 20-something years ago. And in that divorce decree was entitled to some of his retirement. And she never got it. So now she's passed away, and the son was trying to go back and not only find, but collect that money. And that took quite a bit to figure out. And it was a pretty complicated situation.
Right.
And it wasn't a small amount of money. And this wasn't a situation where they had tons of money. Him going after this money wasn't him being spiteful or ugly. They needed it. And she definitely could have benefited from it when she was alive. I think she probably just didn't know how to get it, or that even maybe that she was supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah. And, everyone, you're getting divorced, you're paying the attorneys, you're fighting in the court, and you're doing all this stuff in order to get, sort of this end result, which is the final decree of divorce. You're there. Okay. It says do X, Y, and Z. And then, a lot of times people just take it and put it in a drawer and don't really do X, Y, and Z. I don't understand it, but that's what happens. And
I think there's just so much that goes into it, and
Sure.
they just want to get to the end. And getting to the end, psychologically is just this huge obstacle that they've overcome. But we regularly remind our clients that, getting divorced isn't the end.
Right.
You've still got to effectuate what's been ordered in the decree.
Right. I'll tell you what, let's call that good for today. You want to?
Great.
All right. Guys, we appreciate you hanging out here today with us here at Cases and Cocktails. That was episode 8. Greatly appreciate you hanging out with us today.
Be sure to like, subscribe, and share so you can get notifications of when our next podcast drops.
And in the meantime, guys, go out there and see if you can find yourself a fern gully. Good luck.